You may have some questions about that thumbnail. Let me explain. For several weeks now, YouTube has been cracking down on the Batwoman reviews, deeming them unfit for most advertisers, which is absolute nonsense. So I always request a manual review, and I always get the videos remonetized, but not until after they've accumulated thousands of views that I don't get paid for. And my theory is that the CW has something to do with this, that they're trying to hurt content producers who make negative reviews about their precious show that stands for LGBT representation and female empowerment. Because how dare they, right? Those despicable, cis, white, male, heteronormative bastards, they don't deserve to have money to buy stupid things like food and other basic human necessities. So I thought that if I made this video look like a positive review, maybe they'd leave me alone. That's why the thumbnail and the title of this video are what they are. This is an experiment. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, rest assured, this episode was not good. And the show is not good. It is not the bestest ever. No, it is truly painful to watch. And this episode was no exception. Hit the intro, and I'll explain why in just a second. So this week's descent into idiocy begins with Kate narrating that she chooses to believe that her sister Beth is still buried somewhere deep beneath Alice's manic, overacting exterior as she poons one of Alice's thugs in an alley, takes his jacket, and then leaves him for the cops. Or, more accurately, she just leaves him there in the alley, not tied up, not restrained or anything, and the cops just happen to arrive at that exact moment, saving the city from yet another criminal that could have been captured if Batwoman had felt like doing that, but wasn't because she is a horrible, horrible character. I feel like I should be keeping a list of all the dangerous criminals Kate has let go, but at the rate she's going, I think it would probably take up more space than I have in this frame here. She takes the guy's phone out of the jacket and tells Luke to pull the GPS info off the phone to figure out where it's been for the last week, because this might lead her to Alice's hideout. This seems needlessly complicated, seeing as how Kate has already tracked Alice down quite easily multiple times without bothering with all this science stuff, but Luke is one of the few likable people on this shit show, and he's rapidly becoming wallpaper, so I guess we've got to give him something to do. They quickly discover the location of Alice's new hideout, and Kate just goes there and strolls right in. Not as Batwoman, mind you, but as herself. She doesn't come to fight. She doesn't come to apprehend Alice, so Alice can't hurt anyone else, or kidnap anyone else, or kill anyone else, or make any additions to the list of the crimes she's committed since the first time Kate let Alice escape for no reason at all without attempting to capture her. She just comes to talk. She tells Alice to turn herself in, but Alice is like, no, I don't wanna. And Kate's like, whatever. Kate doesn't press the issue at all, because getting a dangerous killer off the streets just isn't that important to her. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen. As a gesture of good faith, Alice gives Kate the gizmo she pulled out of the batsuit penetrating gun from last week to make it non-lethal. And that's bullshit, it damn well should have been lethal, but I've been over that already. And also, Alice has kept a photo of the two of them as kids at their bar mitzvah. And this alone is enough to satisfy Kate. This alone is enough to make Kate think that there's nothing wrong with leaving Alice to roam the streets and menace the people of Gotham. So Kate just leaves. She doesn't try to capture Alice. She doesn't call the police or the Crows or Homeland Security and tell them where Alice is hiding. She just leaves Alice there and walks away. Need I remind you that previously Kate had sworn to apprehend Alice because she was determined to stop whatever Alice had planned for Gotham. Now here she is with yet another golden opportunity to do exactly that. Alice isn't alone, some of her goons are there to protect her, but since when have any of them put up a real fight? Kate takes out like 8 or 9 of these chumps in about 30 seconds later in the episode. There's nothing stopping her from trying to take Alice down here And still, she does nothing. And I'm not even a little bit surprised anymore. I think I'm past the point of being angry about this garbage because any expectations I might have had, any allowances I might have made for this being a new show trying to find itself or whatever, are long gone at this point. Now I'm just putting it under a microscope and examining this shitstorm in all its excruciating detail. Like, yeah, it's bad, but on how many different levels is it bad? A lot. A lot. Then Alice's thugs attack Jacob in a parking lot somewhere. He tries to fight them off, but he's a man, so he's not allowed to win fights. So they throw him in a van and they take off. Cut to Kate at the building that her real estate company is renovating into a gay bar. I don't see any contractors or construction people around anywhere, so apparently Kate is doing this all on her own. Then Mary comes in and tries real hard to convince Kate to come to this humanitarian gala that is honoring her mother, Catherine. Now just take a minute and let that sink in. Catherine, who is guilty of evidence tampering, arson, and attempted murder, and has confessed to all these things, is having a huge celebration thrown in her honor and is being given a humanitarian award. And not only is that not the dumbest thing in this episode, it's not even the dumbest thing in this scene. Kate, of course, wants no part of this because of the whole Catherine made everyone think her sister was dead thing, and thankfully she's finally putting the blame for that nonsense where it f***ing belongs. Kate has every right to hate Catherine for that one, so believe it or not, I'm actually on Kate's side here. Don't worry, it's probably a one-time thing. Ordinarily, I'd be sympathetic to Mary, but holy gods, why on earth she thought Kate would budge on this one, knowing all the horrible things her mother did, including the evidence tampering which turned Kate's twin sister's life into a living hell. I wonder if Mary is drunk again, but alcohol alone would not account for stupidity like this. Mary points out that Kate has given Alice chance after chance after chance to prove that she's still a good person, but won't give Catherine even one, and okay, that's a fair point. It's a complete double standard, and it only makes sense if you're irrational and hard-headed to the point of lunacy, but that's Kate's wheelhouse, so Mary's out of luck on this one. Alice is family, that's Kate's only reason. Mary takes this to mean that if Alice is family, then she, Mary, must not be, and Kate doesn't really dispute this. So Mary will just have to settle for Jacob, who will be attending the gala as it turns out, leaving Mary with just a smidgen of hope that her family can still be put back together. But Jacob is obviously Mouse in an ass mask disguise posing as Jacob, so Mary's chances of having a good night are being flushed down the tube faster than Batwoman's ratings. Kate goes to see her dad about this. She's pissed off that he's forgiving Catherine, but this is really Mouse she's talking to, so she gets nowhere. Meanwhile, Alice has the real Jacob chained up in the same basement that she was locked up in for years as a child. Just a few episodes ago she did this with Kate, and now she's doing the exact same thing with Jacob. We've already been here, we've been over this, but as will be reinforced later on, it doesn't seem like the writers have any other ideas for Alice as a character. She's crazy and pissed off because she was locked up in this basement for a long time, and that's all there is to her. So Alice and Jacob basically just rehash the same conversation they had the last time she confronted him in this house, and he finally breaks down and he admits that he believed Catherine's fake DNA evidence because believing that Beth was dead hurt less than waking up every day hoping that she was still out there somewhere because he just didn't have it in him to keep on hoping. And a part of Alice does seem to appreciate the honesty at least, but she reboards the crazy train real quick because today is the day of her mad tea party. I hate this show more than any show I've watched probably since the last time I watched The Flash. But I will give credit where credit is due. This was a good scene. Because if you just strip it down to the most basic elements of Dad feeling guilty that he failed his daughter and let the actors just do their damn jobs, they delivered the goods here. This was probably Dougray Scott's best scene on the show so far. And yes, Alice overacts like it's going out of style, but she's still a better scene partner than Kate is any day of the damn week. It didn't save the episode by any stretch, but the scene itself was not bad. But turns out that was an anomaly. It gets bad again in a big hurry. So Kate thinks her dad forgiving Catherine isn't like him at all and makes no sense, and then a light bulb goes on right above her head, so she calls him up and gives him a fake story that he plays along with, thus confirming that he's Mouse in disguise. Kate immediately sends a text to Sophie to warn her about this, but Mouse tranks Sophie and her husband before they can do anything other than argue about the Kate-sized monkey wrench in their marriage. Cut to the Kane family in a limousine on their way to the humanitarian gala, and Mary is Instagramming everything, and she's in such a great mood because her family's all patched up, and her mom's numerous horrible crimes are being forgotten about. Everything's coming up Mary. And I do feel bad for what she's about to go through. I'm not excusing her earlier stupidity, but Mary's only real crime in all this was wanting her family back together, and being too painfully naive about how nasty people can be to each other sometimes to realize what a pipe dream that was. If I could take Mary out of Batwoman and put her on a different show, a better show, I would do it. Because she really does deserve better than this. But someone who doesn't deserve jack shit is Kate. She goes to visit Alice, again. Alice is all alone, again. Kate has a golden opportunity to capture her, again. And she doesn't. Again. And this scene, oh my god, this scene. When you break this scene down, it's almost too stupid to even exist. Kate doesn't come to fight. She just wants to know what Alice did with her father. She knows that Mouse is currently impersonating Jacob and could be doing all manner of evil shit, but she doesn't care about that. She just came to have a conversation with the woman who kidnapped her dad and put his life in danger, on top of all the other horrible things Alice has done since the last time Kate let her get away for no reason. She just wants to know where her dad is, and Alice is like, or what? What are you gonna do? And she says this mockingly, like, are you gonna have me arrested? Institutionalized? She says it as a joke. As a joke. As if the very idea of Kate actually bringing her to justice for her rapidly growing list of atrocities is laughable to her. And the really pathetic part is, she's not wrong. It is laughable. Kate has had so many chances to take Alice down, hand it to her on a silver fucking platter, and every single time she absolutely refuses to do it, no matter what crimes Alice commits, no matter who Alice murders, no matter how many innocent lives Alice puts in danger, Kate doesn't care. The very idea of Kate giving a rat's ass about any of that stuff is so ridiculous to Alice that she didn't even bother to move out of this warehouse she's been using as a hideout after Kate found the place at the start of the episode. She knows Kate won't try to take her down as Batwoman. She knows Kate won't tell the police or the crows where she is so they can come stop her before she kills again. She knows Kate won't do shit. Won't do a goddamn thing to her. So why go anywhere? Why move her hideout at all? As Alice sees it, she's got no reason to leave. And she's right! Eventually, Kate seems to get through to Alice for just a moment. Alice tells her where their dad is, but when Kate gets there, he's long gone. Womp womp. So we cut to the gala, which is being held at some theater or opera house or something, and Catherine is winning a humanitarian award for all her amazing acts of philanthropy. Yeah. She's a philanthropist now. She's not an arsonist. She's not an attempted murderer. She's a philanthropist. This is such bullshit, it makes me want to pull my hair out. And right now, that really means something! The fact that Catherine won't survive this episode doesn't make any of this easier to stomach, because the writers are jumping through every damn hoop in a 50-mile radius to make her look like a victim in all this, when these very serious crimes that we know she's guilty of are going completely unacknowledged. And it's absolutely fucking maddening the lengths that they're going to make sure that Catherine is never held responsible for the worst shit she's done. Catherine is giving a speech when a message from Alice appears on the teleprompter instead, which Catherine then has to read or else Alice is going to kill everyone. So she reads this speech that has her confessing to supplying all the criminals of Gotham with high-tech weapons, and also that Jacob profits by protecting Gotham from said weapons, which means that they're both horrible people and guilty as sin. I don't know how true any of that stuff is, but now, at least as far as the public is concerned, Catherine is finally guilty of something. And that's the closest we're ever going to get to her being held accountable for her crimes in the eyes of the law, so it'll have to do. Then she gets a nosebleed and passes out. Around this time, Sophie and her husband come to tied up in Jacob's office completely unharmed. Because, as Sophie deduces, if Mouse killed them, then Kate would never forgive Alice. But that's exactly what Mouse would want. He doesn't want Kate to forgive Alice. He wants Alice all to himself. He said this. So, him not killing these two makes no damn sense whatsoever. So while Mary is watching over Catherine backstage, in the theater suddenly the lights go out, and Alice's thugs, who are posing as crows, bar the doors, preventing everyone from escaping. Batwoman arrives, and she drops off the second floor or whatever to meet them on the ground level, but it looks really strange because I think they CG'd her as she dropped down just so they could make her drop faster and stick the landing looking all cool and badass. But it looked fake as hell, especially since we've seen characters on Arrow do that exact same move countless times without CG. They can't get away with this after that. It just looks ridiculous. But there is a small saving grace in that what follows is probably the best fight sequence the show has done. And yeah, that's a pretty low bar, but I am trying to be complimentary here. I didn't hate this fight scene, because there was no shaky cam, there were no awkward cuts, there was no bad choreography, and I'm positive that there was no Ruby Rose. It's one continuous, uninterrupted tracking shot of Batwoman from behind as she takes out like 9 of these goons on her way back up the stairs, all done in one take. And we never see her face, so this had to be a stunt woman instead of Ruby Rose. And action-wise, it is a vast improvement over what they usually come up with. Huh. So they remove Ruby Rose, and instantly the show gets better. Coincidence? You tell me. Back at Crow's headquarters, Sophie and her husband have freed themselves, and instead of telling everyone what's going on and racing to the theater to apprehend the imposter Jacob before he does something horrible, they take a minute, time they don't have by the way, to talk about their relationship because the husband just refuses to believe that Sophie doesn't have feelings for Kate anymore, and this is somehow more important than capturing the dangerous criminal before he kills someone. Priorities? What are those? Back at the theater, Alice confronts Mary and Catherine and reveals that Mouse took the super secret super special poison she got from the rifle last week and slipped it into Catherine's drink. That's all that poison was for, killing Catherine. Why Alice had to go through that whole dog and pony show in the last episode to get her hands on this stuff when she could have just mixed up some poisonous shit herself that would kill Catherine just as easily, I couldn't tell you. But anyway, it's some kind of deadly neurotoxin that liquefies a person's internal organs or something, made by Catherine's own company as it turns out. So it's a defense company that also makes poison, but Alice has the antidote. Now, Catherine's company never made an antidote because that makes sense somehow, but Alice came up with an antidote herself. It's probably best that we don't examine that too closely. And Alice will give the antidote to Catherine, and all Catherine has to do is apologize for making everyone think Alice was dead and destroying her whole life. So Catherine says she's sorry, and Alice doesn't believe her because evil. So then Catherine summons up every ounce of sincerity she has, and she gives a very heartfelt apology. She says she only wanted to spare Kate the pain that she was going through, and all the suffering that Alice endured for all those years, it was all Catherine's fault. So Catherine finally owns up to what she did to the person she harmed. She meant well, but it was a mistake, and she confesses this. Interesting. So, did Catherine also mean well when she tried to murder Alice and numerous police officers with a bomb on that bridge in episode 2? Was that also Catherine having good intentions? What was her excuse for that one? I only ask because it's never brought up. At all. Not by Alice or anyone else for that matter. So Alice accepts this apology and she hands over the antidote. But then it turns out that Mouse also poisoned Mary. And well, wouldn't you know it, there's only enough antidote for one of them. So Mary thinks they should share the antidote, and maybe that'll be enough to keep them alive until they get to the hospital, but Catherine's her mom, and she's adamant that Mary take all of it. They have an admittedly very sad and emotional goodbye. It turns out that Catherine always knew about Mary's underground illegal medical clinic, and she's proud of her. She might not be if she knew the kind of people Mary admits to treating a little bit later, and Catherine dies. This is a scene that really shouldn't work. But it's like the Jacob scene from earlier. Strip everything else away, look at it as just a dying mother saying goodbye to her heartbroken daughter, and it works because both women deliver some really good acting here. And they manage to rise above the asinine way this whole thing was set up. It's frankly a depressing reminder of what Batwoman could be if genuinely touching scenes like this one were the norm rather than exceptions that are so rare they feel like a total fluke when they happen. But because of how terribly Catherine's whole storyline has been written, how the writers bent over backwards to let her off the hook for the arson, for the attempted murder, which resulted in nothing but making me resent the hell out of Catherine as a character, it just casts an ugly shadow over this whole thing where I should feel bad for her, but I just don't. Because I keep thinking about the crimes Catherine was never held responsible for and now never will be, because the writers seem to genuinely not want her to be for reasons I still can't figure out. And then I think about Alice, who's the only one in this whole situation who really wants Catherine to face some kind of punishment for at least one of the terrible things she did. And it's like, if none of the good guys are gonna hold Catherine responsible for her own actions, somebody fucking has to. So, in a really bizarre, twisted way, the villain is the only one doing the right thing in this situation. I mean, yeah, it's revenge and murder, not justice, but it's the only price that anyone is willing to make Catherine pay. So the actresses did good work in this scene, but as much as the writers really want Catherine to be seen as a victim, she's not. She did this to herself. The only real victim here is Mary. And also, depending on how you look at it, Alice. So Alice leaves them alone, and she's confronted by Batwoman, and once again, it's the same damn scene. Alice blows up because of how pissed off she is that she was locked in a cell for 11 years, and she's just reiterating the same motivation, the same excuse over and over and over again, because the writers either can't find a new angle to approach this character from, or they just don't care and they think this is all she needs. So Alice reveals that she just murdered Catherine, and she blames Catherine for her whole life turning to shit and for replacing her with Mary, who she calls a vapid human run-on sentence. And I gotta admit, that was a funny line. I don't think it was supposed to be, but I laughed. Then Alice teases that maybe she killed their dad too, and Kate kinda loses it at that point. She tries to strangle Alice, but she just can't go through with it because of all the fucking times for Kate to start valuing human life, she chooses now. Then Mouse jumps her from behind and knocks her off the ledge. Of course, they just showed her jumping from that height and sticking the landing in full-blown Yas Queen Slay mode a few minutes ago, so she's totally fine. She just hops right back up. She doesn't have broken legs or anything. Then Alice and Mouse share some parting words, and they walk away. And stop me if you've heard this one, Kate just lets them go. She could quite easily chase after them, but even though she has the grapple gun that she's used numerous times to subdue criminals in situations just like this, even though Alice just admitted to murdering Catherine and teased that she also murdered their father as well, Kate just stands there like a jackass and lets them escape. I'm genuinely curious. What would it take for Kate to go after Alice for real and honestly try to bring her in? What would Alice have to do? Like, how far would she have to go for Kate to do that and mean it? Would she have to, like, nuke a city or kick a puppy or something? I really want to know this, because if Kate is refusing to go after Alice, even now, then we have officially reached the point where questions like that one can no longer be asked sarcastically. And that is so baffling to me, I cannot even believe these words are coming out of my mouth right now. So the real Jacob wakes up in a parking lot somewhere, he calls Kate, she confirms that it's really him, and she tells him what's going on. But the not-so-shocking thing about this is that Kate is in street clothes, and it looks like she's out of the city somewhere. So, apparently, after Alice and Mouse left, instead of making sure that Mary was, alive, Kate just f***ed off and went for a drive on her bike or something. Is that absolutely in character for Kate? Yes. Yes, it is. Then the cops show up to arrest Jacob. Turns out Alice planted the poison vial on him, so she's framing him for Catherine's murder. I'm not sure how long that's going to hold up, since Alice already explained to Mary exactly how she and Mouse impersonated and framed Jacob, but to be continued on that one. So only now does Kate go check in on Mary. She finds her at Mary's clinic, and Mary's reflecting on all the bad people she's helped with that clinic, including one guy who had stolen a car and who she treated for his injuries and then let walk out the next day without calling the police. I'm not sure that's something to be proud of, Mary. And she could help all those people, but she couldn't help her own mother. She's really upset. Mary asks Kate if she still thinks that Alice is worth it, and Kate finally admits that she doesn't. And for the first time, Kate almost makes some kind of attempt to make Mary feel better about something, but Mary says it's too late for that, and she leaves. Discounting the unintentionally hilarious story about her letting the car thief walk away, I guess not bringing criminals to justice runs in the family, and this was Mary finally standing up for herself and taking Kate to task for constantly treating her like garbage. Kate absolutely deserved this, and for once the show does not make excuses for her or just kind of forget the whole thing like it never happened. I'm tempted to give them some actual praise for this one, but then I remember how stupid the rest of the episode was and the feeling passes. Back at Crow's headquarters, Sophie is trying to get the commissioner on the phone to explain exactly how Jacob was set up and framed, but her husband just wants to... That's right, talk about their relationship again. As if we haven't had enough of that this week. This is like the third or fourth scene of them going over it in this episode alone. If I had to single out one thing that was constantly dragging this episode down like it was wearing cement shoes, it was the scenes of these two just rehashing the same thing non-stop. Husband thinks Sophie isn't over Kate, Sophie denies it, he doesn't believe her, rinse, repeat. And I think the only reason I didn't notice just how little chemistry these two planks of wood have together until just now is because Sophie is usually doing scenes with Kate, who she has just as little chemistry with, if not even less. Sophie finally does admit that she loves him, but she doesn't know if she's in love with him. He tells her to figure it out, but he might not be there when she does, and good God, I really could not care less if he is or isn't. This is so boring. The writers obviously don't give a shit about this relationship, so if you're gonna split up, just split up and get the damn thing over with already. So Sophie cries, Kate destroys the photo of her and Beth and admits that her sister really is gone. Then she visits her dad at the police station. They couldn't send Catherine to prison because she's a woman, but Jacob is a man, so he's getting fast-tracked. He says that once he gets out of there, he's gonna put Alice down for good, and Kate says she won't try to stop him. So the woman carrying on Batman's legacy is now condoning murder and revenge. Lovely. And naturally, this creates a huge goddamn plot hole. If Kate wants Alice dead now, why the hell didn't she chase after her and Mouse when they walked away at the theater? She could have easily caught up to them, but she just let them escape again like she always does, and now 5 minutes later she wants them dead? Yeah, right. But who the hell are we kidding? If Kate's character was ever going to become in any way consistent, it probably would have happened by now. And it sure as hell didn't start here. And the most baffling part about this is that after all the things Alice had already done to push Kate to this level, setting a bomb to kill hundreds of people, the maimings, the stabbings, the kidnappings, the murders, In the end, it was Alice killing a woman that Kate doesn't even like that finally made Kate decide, yeah, let's go kill a bitch. I just don't know anymore. Then at the end, there's a stinger where they do something to set up next week's big crossover event. Harrison Wells from The Flash is talking to some runes carved into the wall of a cave. He says he traveled the multiverse for years to kill someone and now they just saved his life. Then a voice tells him to submit. He touches the runes. A door in the cave wall opens up and a bright light swallows him up and sucks him in. I have no idea what's going on here. I have no idea which iteration of the Harrison Wells character this is. Outside of Black Lightning, I haven't watched any of the other Arrowverse shows in quite a while, so I guess I'm gonna be pretty confused next week. But then again, I'm pretty confused when I watch Batwoman every week, so maybe it won't be that different. So that was Batwoman Episode 8, A Mad Tea Party, and yeah, it was bad, but maybe not quite as bad as usual. In between all the scenes of Kate meeting with Alice and doing absolutely nothing to capture her for the umpteenth time, the sleep-inducing scenes of Sophie and her husband talking about their crumbling marriage, and all the garbage about Catherine being let off the hook for the arson and attempted murder, being inexplicably given a bullshit humanitarian award for doing a bunch of stuff off-screen that we never saw or were even told about, only to then be finally taken to task by the villain of all people and punished for arguably the least of her offenses while all the other ones just get retconned into oblivion, were a couple things that actually did work. We got our first official action sequence that I can honestly say I thought was pretty respectable. It wasn't on the same level as action scenes that Daredevil would deliver, not even close. But by Batwoman standards, this scene wasn't half bad. There were also some nice dramatic moments. The scene with Alice and Jacob, the stuff with Catherine and Mary when Catherine was dying, those were genuinely good, well done, well acted scenes. At least when viewed in isolation. Because the actors were able to elevate the writing and deliver something that was a lot better than what this show usually gives us in that department. It's almost as if, when these particular actors are given decent material to work with, they can actually do good work. Imagine that. And with Alice killing Catherine, we get a taste of Kate actually having to deal with the consequences of being a terrible person for once. Alice finally did something to make Kate acknowledge that Alice needs to be stopped. Of course, she acknowledged that once before and it didn't take, so who knows, it might not take this time either. Now we just need Kate to acknowledge that she's had God knows how many chances to stop Alice already and didn't do shit about it and will really be getting somewhere. And her relationship with Mary is all messed up now, and it appears that might actually have an effect on Kate this time instead of what usually happens, which is Kate not really giving a crap about what Mary thinks or feels or does unless she needs her for something. So still a bad episode in general, but hidden in there were moments when the show briefly toyed with the idea of not sucking quite so much. I can't imagine that's going to last very long, but with Batwoman, you gotta take what you can get. Calling this the best episode of Batwoman so far kind of implies that it was good to begin with, which it wasn't. I was tempted to call this Batwoman's least worst episode so far, but then John Talks did his review and he stole my line. So, I guess I'll just say that while Batwoman is usually god-awful, this week it was simply awful. That's about as nice as I feel like being. Don't get used to it. That is your review of Batwoman Episode 8. The show still sucks, but if you enjoyed me explaining exactly why and how much it sucks, check out the playlist on the channel and watch the other reviews. The link should be popping up around here somewhere. Also, while you're here, please help me fight off the YouTube algorithm by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube likes to unsubscribe people sometimes just to be a dick. Ding that bell icon for notifications. Follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you'll always know when new videos get uploaded. And I'll be back with those videos very soon. Until then, over. Out. That they're trying to hurt content producers who make negative reviews about their precious show that stands for LGBT representation and female empowerment. Because how dare they, right? Those despicable, cis, white, male, heteronormative bastards. The f*** was that?